Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our cozy little corner of the internet. I'm Pen and today I'll be reading chapter 7 of Seen and Not Heard by LitaCakes. As always, there's going to be trigger warnings for this fic. This chapter specifically has talk of abuse, panic attacks, bad memories and panic triggers. Now make sure to take care of yourself because if you're not in the right headspace, please don't watch this for your own safety. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy and let's get right into the fic. Chapter 7. You're not alone. Start running towards your new life. Arriving on the UA High campus was an adventure Izuku had not been prepared for. While he knew all the public information about the school, it didn't even scratch the surface of the reality. The campus was huge, and even that was putting it lightly. The whole place was designed for giants, it seemed. The walkways were wide, the windows were tall and wide, and the giant H-shaped building was enormous and daunting in his eye line. Logically, Izuku could imagine that some of this was purposeful to accommodate for those students who were much larger as a result of their quirk, or for those who needed space to move around when practicing their quirks. Even so, Izuku still felt like an ant while he walked down the brick road that led to the gate of the front door. Inside, everything was just as large. The doors were 3 times larger than any door Izuku had ever known, and the hallways were wide enough to fit a car into, or he assumed. They walked past a dozen classrooms, all empty for the weekend, and went upstairs. The large plaque on the door read Principal Nezu. Izuku gulped loudly, apparently loudly enough that it made Shota chuckle. Mike smacked his husband on the arm playfully. "Don't tease a little listener, he might actually be scared," his blonde guardian whined. Shota rolled his eyes at his husband and bent down to Izuku. "There's nothing to be scared of, okay? The rat might be a little crazy, or a lot crazy, but he's just a brilliant and curious madman who wants the world to burn, in a friendly way, I promise." Izuku paled. That was meant to reassure me? Somehow, even though he signed it, Shota and Mike could tell that he was shouting the words in panic. Shota laughed a little more, but Izuku knew it wasn't in a mocking way. "Izuku, he's the cutest little mouse bear thing ever. He's harmless, physically, but besides that, he adores his students and will do anything for them. You have nothing to worry about. Mike and I trust him with our lives, if that helps you understand better." It did, actually. Izuku nodded. The door opened automatically, and Izuku looked around, only to tilt his head downwards to find a little chimera standing at the doorframe. Oh, he was much smaller than Izuku thought he was. The mouse bear thing was indeed adorable, but Izuku wondered if he still held his animalistic instincts. After all, he was still an animal, right? Tilting his head in a curious manner, Izuku crouched down and let his mind assess all the things he knew about Nezu from hero reports and interviews. There wasn't much, but it was enough. The IQ quirk the chimera had was public knowledge, but he'd never seen any details about it. The quirk had to be quite powerful to overwhelm an animal's natural instincts or instill a sense of self onto the creature, right? Or did this very mammal disprove the theory that animals weren't sentient? That's an idea. Izuku needed to write a paper about that. Izuku? Mike asked. Izuku shook himself from his thoughts and looked up to his guardian. "You okay, little listener?" Izuku nodded. "Sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. It's a pleasure to meet you, Principal Nezu." "Ah, what a polite child. Please just call me Nezu. I am sorry I'm unable to sign back due to my pause, but I understand you're perfectly fine. Come in. We have much to discuss. Shota sent me some of your recent analysis, and I must say I'm impressed by your work." Of all the things Izuku had been imagining in his head, a compliment in the first 5 minutes certainly wasn't on the list. He looked around and followed the Chimera and his guardians into the room. The room was sparse but modern. A large oak desk at the back with a small set of stairs up to the chair behind it. In front was a sitting area with a coffee table that matched the desk. Izuku himself clambered onto one of the squishy chairs and in the seating area, and Izuku could see tea already steaming on the coffee table. Around the room were various awards and trophies, all related to the school in some way, apparently. A whiteboard was on the far left wall and a projector sat on the ceiling. He wondered if he held staff meetings here sometimes, or just movie nights. Once they were all situated, and Nezu had dodled out tea for everyone, he got right to business. Alright then. My Nezu voice is cursed, well, okay, I'm sorry. Now then, Izuku, I was hoping that you would consider becoming a student here at UA High. You see, every year I'm allotted one adjunct student slot. It's sort of a recommendation student position, except you'll be primarily under my tutelage. I haven't found anyone, worthy for this position in quite a few years, but when Shota showed me your analysis as well as your videos online of your work as a vigilante, well, I couldn't resist snatching you up. There was a sense of danger that permeated from the mammal's words, and Izuku could sense it better than most, but for some reason he didn't feel scared of the principal. Perhaps he knew that malice behind the Chimera's eyes wouldn't be directed at him anytime soon, and he took comfort in that. Whatever it was, Izuku smiled behind his mask. I'd be honoured for the opportunity to learn under you, Nezu. Oh dear God. Please don't turn him into another world-ending monster, Nezu. You already did that with Shota, Mike mumbled to himself. He looked worried. Izuku tilted his head at Shota, silently asking what the blonde was talking about. Shota grinned around his teacup. I was Nezu's last adjunct student, though that was supposed to be a secret, Mike. Oh please, you two graduated nearly 2 decades ago. It's hardly a secret now. Well, now you just made me sound old. If it's not one insult, it's the other. Izuku rolled his eyes. In the 2 days he had known them, they truly seemed like a happy old married couple. Despite the apparent bickering, they were smiling at each other and he could see the fondness in both sets of eyes. As much as I like to... My Nezu voice is so cursed. I'm so sorry. As much as I love to watch you two, watching you two at each other's throats on a good day, let's not worry our student that his new guardians are getting into a fight about who's older. Shota sputtered on his tea and glared at Nezu with such venom that made Izuku burst out laughing. He honestly thought Nezu might have burst into flames from the heat of the underground hero's stare. You're lucky he's too innocent to know what we're referring to, rat. Anyway. Nezu seemed like a real master of subject change. Izuku didn't even get a chance to ask what they were talking about. Meanwhile, Mike was sitting in the corner of the couch, hiding with a bright red blush across his face, holding his teacup up to hide his cheeks. Izuku must have missed something, clearly. Now then, Izuku. The green-haired student looked back into Nezu with wide eyes. You'll attend general education courses with our gen ed students. But you'll be taking foundational heroics, of course, with Shota and myself. You'll switch off and on 1 week with me, 1 week with him, over the course of your next 3 years here. That may be altered for events or exams, that sort of thing. But anyway, I want to give you a few tests so you can get your middle school certificate without having to go back to that hellhole I plan to personally burn down instead, and can instead focus on therapy for the summer. How does that sound? Izuku blinked, once again shocking himself with his own voice. His throat promptly clamped shut, which he had been, and he had switched to signing. You mean metaphorically burned, right? Nezu let out a laugh that could only be described as manic. Of course. The way he drew out the O made Izuku unsure if that was true, but he was going to just roll with the punches on this. There was no way on Green's Earth he would refuse such an appealing offer, even if he didn't believe he deserved it at all. Besides, he didn't want to admit the truth to all of them. I really don't want to go back there. I don't like the spider lilies. The world and the words hurt almost as much as being hit does. Mike carefully leaned over and offered a hand. Izuku took it and clutched it in his lap, trying to keep his composure from shattering. Never again, Izuku, Shredder promised. I can't promise the world will be kind to the first quirkless hero, no matter what you choose in your career, but I can promise I will be there for you, cheering you on, and punching every single doubter in the face. Metaphorically, unless I'm allowed to do it physically. Izuku's shoulders shook with a laugh. He let one hand slip from Mike's grip and wrapped it around Shredder's shoulder, tugging him in for a hug. With his face buried into the taller man's shoulder, he whispered a soft and raspy, "Thank you." Shredder hugged him tighter, but didn't comment on his voice. Izuku was thankful for that. As touching as this is, this was touching, but we have work to complete. I'll have those tests sent to you by the end of the evening or tomorrow. Get them back to me by Wednesday, and so long as you're as good as a student as I think you are, you should have no troubles testing out of middle school. No holding back on these, Izuku. I want to see what you're made of. Yes, sir. Izuku gave a fake salute, which got a few chuffs and chuckles from around the room. The walk home was quiet, and Izuku spent it a few paces ahead of his guardians. They directed him with a short, one-worded left or right as they walked. Was this what it was like to feel happy? Thinking back to his childhood, when he used to play with Katsuki in the park, or go bug hunting with him in the woods, this felt similar. When Hisashi would carry him around piggyback with Izuku pretending to fly like a hero on his back. He decided that happiness was maybe all those little moments that made you smile, even if the memories around those were painful. Happiness isn't a forever state of being, it's something you can create, and Shredder and Mike were creating it for Izuku with his help. He had known them for mere days, but they were doing more than his birth family ever did. They saved him. Something suddenly occurred to Izuku as he turned around abruptly that made his guardians almost stumble into him. Whoa there, what's up, listener? Mike offered his hands and Izuku smiled, taking one. He signed with the other. You are my heroes. Then took Shredder's hand with his other, and settled between them while resting his head on Shredder's arm. He missed the look his guardians shared between themselves. Over his head, it was a look of pure adoration and love. They were growing attached fast, both of them wanting to keep the sweet boy clinging in their hands. By the time they got home, Izuku was in Shredder's arms, half asleep. After getting up around 5 to work on those files and spending the whole afternoon with Nezu, going over plans for his coming lessons, the poor green bean was exhausted. Shredder couldn't blame him for passing out a few feet from the door. Mike offered a forehead kiss as they got inside and helped take his shoes off before heading to the kitchen to make dinner. They could wake Izuku up in an hour when dinner was ready. For now, Shredder carried the tired boy upstairs and set him gently on his bed. It wasn't until he went to cover Izuku up that he realized Zashi had taken the boy's shoes off when they walked in. It made him grin. It was adorably domestic. Tucking his hands into his pockets, Shredder made his way back to the kitchen. He silently watched Mike prepare dinner for a few minutes. He knew Mike was aware of his presence, but sometimes he liked just watching. He liked to see the way his husband smiled and hummed something soft and nostalgic while he worked. Shota leaned on the doorframe and sighed happily. I know that sideshow. You're content but worried. Of course I'm worried, Zashi. This kid is so wounded. He's been hurt so much by this world. By the very people who were supposed to protect him, but he's still so kind and willing to keep going. Where does one find compassion and faith like that? Hisashi made a very heavy sound as he sighed and turned to face Shota. I honestly don't know. The little listener's got a heart. The little listener's truly something else. He's got a true hero's heart. He's never once been saved in his life until you came along, and still he's willing to keep walking towards the unknown, towards what confuses and scares him. He's so strong for his age. Shota rounded the kitchen counter and wrapped his arms around Hisashi, hugging tightly. He pressed his face into the beautiful blonde locks and took a deep breath of his mint shampoo. Shota pressed a kiss to the crown of Hisashi's head and backed off. He called us his hero, Zashi. I don't think I can ever let him go. He's ours, right? We're doing this together? Oh, sure. You know, he was ours the moment you called from the station. I knew that moment how attached you were. Yes, we're going to adopt him if he wants us. Good. He was reassured that his husband wanted the same thing as him, but he was worried that Izuku might not want them. It was illogical to worry so soon, though. He knew that, but it didn't stop his brain from conjuring up all the reasons he'd make a pitiful father. Most of those reasons happened to be a direct result of his own parents being subpar. Hisashi knew his fears, and one look at Shota's face and the blonde had the blonde coming to hug him. Hey, stop that. We'll be amazing fathers, if Izuku wants us, but we'll be outstanding guardians too. There's no need to worry over this just yet. Just teach him for now. We'll show him love and explore his newfound voice, and teach him how to be the best hero together. Shota wrapped his arms around Hisashi tightly, burying his face against his husband's shoulder and nodding silently. Zashi was right, of course. He usually was about these things. Thanks, Zashi. Something pricked at the back of his head, so he lifted his face from his husband's shoulder, only to find a sleepy-eyed Izuku standing in the doorway. Shota's eyes went wide when he realized the kid didn't have his mask or neck sleeve on. He could feel Hisashi shifting, turning back towards the food. He quickly tucked the man's head into his neck. Hey, Sho, what you doing? Izuku's eyes snapped alert, meeting Shota's own with equal panic, as his hands roamed across his face when he realized he was without his coverings. Just hush for a second, Zashi. It's okay, Izuku. Do you want to go get your mask? It's okay if you don't want Zashi to see you without your mask yet. The blonde immediately went still in his arms. Shota felt his fingers clutching at the side of his shirt, the face in the crook of his neck burying deeper. He knew Zashi was scared, or more aptly worried about what he would see there. Shota hadn't told him yet. Suki knew, but Shota had told him that in confidence, and he knew by earning Izuku's trust was hard, so he didn't want to shatter it by telling another person. Suki needed to know for the case, but Hisashi was separate from that entirely, and he refused to break even a single strand of the boy's faith in them. Shota watched Izuku think over his words. He clearly wasn't sure what to do in this situation, and neither did Shota. Izuku must have pulled his mask off in his sleep. He couldn't imagine sleeping in one of those would be comfortable, and he likely got tangled and yanked it off. Waking up half delirious from an exhausting day left him forgetful to put it on. Hell, the kid didn't seem to realize he was looking at Shota until he spoke. Izuku's face contorted in a confused array of emotions that Shota made no attempt of understanding. This was the kid's decision, and he wouldn't influence that by trying to decipher what he might be feeling or making assumptions about it. After a few minutes of Zashi clutching to him, Izuku walked over slowly. He had a look of determination on his face that almost broke Shota's heart. This kid was trying so hard to trust people, to trust adults again. He was putting all of himself out there and trusting the people who promised to protect him to not hurt him again. Shota again silently wondered where this kid got so much compassion from. They were lucky the world hadn't managed to beat it out of him. He would make an amazing hero. I want him to see. I trust you. I now trust Mike too. Zashi, he wants you to open your eyes. He said he trusts us. After a second of hesitation, Zashi did as he was asked. He stood straight up and opened his eyes. Shota watched and wrapped his arms around himself to try to keep the anger that boiled inside of him at the sight of that burned scar from bubbling over. Oh, Izuku. Hizashi crouched down in front of the boy, offering to out both of his hands, but he didn't touch Izuku's face, but kept his hands up as if he'd cupped the kid's cheeks. It was an offer, an open and loving gesture that Izuku could choose to accept or refrain from. In the brightly lit kitchen, Shota could see there were more than just burnt scars on Izuku's face. He had very obvious muzzle marks gouged into his cheeks and scars across his neck from leather wear and tear. Just how long was he forced to wear that device? Izuku had said that from the time he got home from school until he left the next day, he was made to be silent, seen and not heard. Did that mean they forced him to wear a muzzle for upwards of 12 hours? His hands were shaking from the rage that tried to find a home. But this boy's biological sperm donor wasn't around to punch, so Shota just swallowed it. Scars do not define you, little listener. Shota's mind faded back to the present as he watched Izuku step closer and slip his face right into the offered hands. Shota's heart clenched at the sight. Mike smiled softly in a reassuring way. Izuku reached his hand out and grabbed one of Shota's shaking digits. He didn't fight the boy, just forced his hand to stop shaking so he wouldn't worry Izuku. The hand was brought up to Izuku's face, right over Hizashi's. I trust you, Izuku signed, using the plural for you. But I still don't want others to see this. I still can't always find my voice. This is really hard for me, and my throat is really tight and I'm scared. You told me to tell you when I'm scared or confused, right? Finally, managing to control his emotions, Shota nodded. Yes, Izuku, it's okay to be scared, but you don't have to force yourself into anything you aren't comfortable with. We're just so happy that you trust us, but never feel obligated to speak or show anyone your scars if you aren't ready. Thank you for trusting us with this. We accept you, Izuku, just the way you are. You're perfect, scars and all, Hizashi added. Shota nodded in agreement. Thank you, Zashi. Again, that chest-clenching sensation when Izuku's fingers spelled their names. He was going to have to figure out a sign name for Izuku. Actually, he already had one in mind. Tapping his finger on Izuku's cheek, he used his free hand to sign, "You're welcome, Green Bean." The smile that sparkled across Izuku's face lit up the room so bright, Shota thought he might faint from the force of it. Zashi was already crying, but the tears just rolled down his face stronger when he saw that smile. Shota had seen the telltale crinkle in the corner of Izuku's eyes a few times. Shota knew he'd been smiling a little. Not much, but a little. But this was pure joy, and Shota couldn't be happier to see it on his Green Bean's face. Izuku woke up the next morning feeling refreshed and actually comfortable. He sat up in the bed and stared across at the wall across from him, trying to untangle the knot of confusion in his gut at the sensation. He didn't feel scared. He didn't wake up and immediately rush to get ready early for every little thing. He didn't rush to have a semi-warm breakfast. Not knowing how long ago Inko had left it for him, he could smell bacon cooking downstairs, and the soft chatter of his guardians filled it up as well. It was Monday, which most likely meant Shota and Mike had to go back to school to teach. Izuku wondered if they were going to leave him by himself all day. Inko tended to when she had work and he had a day off from school. He stayed in his room all day and worked on free college courses on his tablet usually. The last few months, though, he'd spent doing his analysis in his spare time when he wasn't patrolling. Maybe he should patrol tonight? Oh, wait, he wasn't allowed to do that anymore. Izuku sighed. What did kids his age usually do when they had free time? Go to the mall? That sounded grossly anxiety-inducing. Maybe he could just use the home gym Mike and Shota offered? Izuku hefted his legs over the edge of the bed and pulled on some clothes. A pair of dark ripped blue jeans and an oversized t-shirt. He left his neck sleeve off, but put on his face mask. He was getting more comfortable around his guardians, and even let them see and touch his face last night. That had been overwhelming, in a good way, but overwhelming nonetheless. So he opted for minimal coverage today. Once he felt ready, he opened the door and immediately stopped. You think you can waltz around my house, child? Stay in your room. I don't want your germs all over my walls. Inko's voice filled his ears. Izuku's knees gave out and he landed on the floor, crouched with his hands covering his ears. Somewhere distant, he could hear a whimpering sound, but he couldn't place where it was from, if it was from him or someone else. He just wanted her voice to stop, but she kept screaming at him. He wasn't allowed out of his room until it was time for school. It wasn't a school day for him. He had to stay in his room. He had to stay in his room. Izuku, can you hear me? The voice made him stiffen, fingers clutching at the clumps of hair. No, this wasn't Hisashi. That voice felt familiar and friendly, caring. He knew that voice. Two hands appeared in front of him in the same curled position as last night, an offer. The same offer as last night. Izuku slowly uncurled himself and took one of his hands, letting his body curl around. Taking one of the hands, letting his body curl around it, and as he held it close to his chest. It's okay, little listener. It's okay. I'm right here. Take all the time you need. Izuku gave a jerky nod and closed his eyes again, listening to his guardian's breathing next to him. There was worry in the man's voice. Izuku wanted to explain, but he couldn't find the words, even in sign language. He just couldn't figure out what the next step from when they sat where he sat. What was he supposed to be doing? He dressed, so maybe breakfast? That's what happened. He panicked when he heard Inko's voice when he tried to get breakfast. Sorry, Mike, Izuku sighed, holding up his hand for the man to see. Hey, nothing to be sorry for. Sometimes mornings are hard. You had a very emotional evening last night, and after an exhausting day, it's understandable. I heard her voice in my head. You're Inko? No one in the house called Inko his mother or Hisashi his father, and Izuku felt grateful that they had taken his lead on that, which he was grateful for. Izuku nodded. I hear her screaming about the rules, having to stay up in my room. I can't get the germs over the wall. I froze up. Thank you for telling me, Izuku. Can I hug you? Izuku nodded after a moment's thought. A hug sounded nice. Mike leaned over and wrapped himself around Izuku's frame, hugging him in a tight hugging him tight and warm. Izuku's whole mind melted. He could remember a time when Inko hugged him like that, but just faintly. This was so much better than any memory he had. He felt safe. A moment later, his hands uncurled themselves from his chest and wrapped around Mike's side, grabbing onto his shirt to hold himself as tight as close as he could get. It's okay, Izuku. Sometimes memories are so strong when they pop up when we least expect them. Inko and her husband hurt you, but unfortunately you will remember those pains. But we'll be here for you. Anytime you hear them, I'll be more than ready to chase those demons away with warm hug and hot cocoa. Izuku nodded again, finding tears streaming down his face. Silently, no sobs came. Nothing shivered his body into movement. He was still and quiet. The pain was too deep this time. Remembering the pain that Mike spoke about hurt. He wasn't scared anymore because his guardians would be right there, like they promised, chasing the demons away. Okay everyone, that was chapter 7 of Seen and Not Heard by LitaCakes. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love this fic so much, and just keep it on track for this, because I've caught up. We've caught up to what I've read, so I've got to do some reading homework. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to take care of yourself. Yes, I'm looking at you. Yes, Frank. I don't know who Frank is, but if you're named Frank, and Frank's an old person name though. Okay, if your name's Jennifer, if you are watching this and you are struggling because you have too much work to do, take some time to relax. Anyway, everyone, make sure to relax, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.